Hi, thank you for joining me today. My name is Michelle, and today we are going to assemble the Boho flower crown from Dimensional Paper Cuts. It's a deceivingly simple project, but the look can be quite elegant. It's really great for music festivals, bridal showers, birthdays, bachelorette parties, baby showers, children's parties, cosplay. And just because you are a queen and need a crown. So I think you're gonna like putting it together. You can make it a lot of them very fast. If you wanted to omit the flowers, you could also just use this part for the a man's crown. Or you could extend the flowers all the way around. That would be really pretty. This piece, the band itself, I use silhouette chipboard for, and a Krylon hammered gold. I wasn't so crazy about the hammered gold. I had to use 2 coats, and it took quite a while. So on my next one, we're gonna try something different today, and we're gonna make it completely out of cardstock to see what the differences are. And I'm going to use the same paint that I used for the flowers, which I was thrilled with. This is the Krylon Shortcuts. Shortcuts means it's just a much smaller, container, and therefore a much cheaper container. This got me, I think, about 2.5, because there's still some in there. It's the name of the color is Gold Leaf. So I was really happy with the way that shimmered and shined. So that was really great. Okay, so enough of that. Now that you know what I've used, let's get busy and make one. To begin, we are going to do the crown itself. The crown in diameter, if made as it comes on your mat, will make it about 6.5 inches in diameter. This is a good size for an adult with a smaller head or a larger child. If you have a lot of hair or a bigger head, you're going to want a crown that might be a little bit larger. This sits on top of my head, but it does not come down to the forehead. So depending on the look you want as well, you might want to bump it up a little bit, and we'll talk about how to do that in just a second. Okay, so to begin with, you're going to have 2 pieces. They are going to look just like that. They're just plain. So we're going to start with those. You're going to have a score line down at the bottom. If you're purchasing the templates from Dimensional Paper Cuts on Etsy, you will receive 2 files, 1 file with the dash score line here, and 1 file with a solid score line. If you're purchasing them on Silhouette Design Store, then you will probably only receive 1 file, and they will have dash score lines. Don't let that bother you though, because the score lines are actually glue lines. So it's going to tell you, where to go ahead and add that up. So the dash line isn't even going to show. Okay. Now, if you want to, like I said, make it larger, here's what you need to do, because these are symmetrical. So you have just this little bit at the edge here, where it's going to attach, okay? So in order to keep them evenly spaced, what you're going to want to do is just go ahead and cut a 3rd one and, glue them down so you have 3 in a row. And then you're going to, let's say you want to make this larger or smaller, pull this around. Let's say you want it that big. You want it for a toddler. Okay, so we know that if we cut it right there, you're going to have these lined up, these pointy parts lined up symmetrical, so they'll go all the way around. Does that make sense? If not, just let me know and we can work out the sizing. But you know, if you're making the crown for a baby, you would want it even smaller. So you're going to take it, match it around where that would be, and then you know where to cut it off. Like, okay, I would want to cut it here so that these would match up. All right, and then that way they would stay the same distance apart. Okay, so I think that this size works most for the average size head if it's not laying down on your forehead. All right, so anyway, so we have these two pieces. They look like this. I've gone ahead and and then you're gonna find a bunch of these. We are going to take this and glue it right here, just like I did with the rest of them. And that's going to add some of that dimension. Today, for this craft, I am using the original tacky glue. It's affordable, it's easy to find, and it works. So that parts move a little bit easier and they don't pop off. I'm on this glue journey in life right now where I'm experimenting with so many different glues. It's been really really interesting because they all have their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so there we go. Now we have all the little pieces on there. I made them so that you can see the little piece on the inside all points up. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and glue those pieces together. And I'm still using that tacky glue. I'm just putting it on in a smaller, thinner amount instead of just taking the glue bottle and going crazy with it. Okay. Toothpicks are a staple in my craft room. So I'm just going to do that. I know a lot of the cardstock in 12 by 12 size comes textured. I chose this, and honestly, I don't remember where it came from. But I chose a non-textured cardstock so that I would get that smooth metallic look when I colored it with gold. So this was actually a really economical craft to be making. Okay, so I'm gonna let that set and we're going to go on to the flowers. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the flowers. The crown has 3 flowers, a small one in the center, and then 2 larger ones on the side. If you want to make more flowers to go around, go right ahead. It really won't take that much longer. I just didn't want to overwhelm everybody by doing that. So I think 3 is fine in the front. That looks cute, but if you want more, we can do more. To begin with, we're gonna have 4 sets of petals. There are 2 larger and 2 smaller. And this is for the larger flower here. For the smaller flower, you will also see a set of 4 petals, and they will just be, you know, a little bit sized down. You will also find the stamen here, which is basically just a rectangle with a whole lot of little little cuts made into it. Okay, so here are some of the tools. This is not fancy, okay? You can use this. You can use a piece of foam. And I know I said you don't need special tools. You don't. What this is, and you can tell by the lovely jagged edge here, this is 2 cheap mouse pads. Cheap mouse pads that came from the Dollar Spot at Target. Now I think they call it Spot's Playground. So they might be $2 now or $3, who knows, because the price keeps going up. But I just glued those down and that gave it a little bit of extra thickness. You can also buy fun foam. You know, I think Michael's has it for about 79 cents, and that works. They also make these mats for making flower making, and I've done a lot of flower making, so I thought it would be great if I bought the mats, but then I found out, you know what? They don't last forever. So this actually has lasted several years and many, many flowers. So I'm pretty happy with that. There's also this little piece that we're gonna use for the stamen. This was only like $2. I think I got it at Hobby Lobby, and it has a tiny, tiny slit right there. And then you just put the paper in, and then you can roll it. But do you know what works just as good for this project? A toothpick. And that's probably what we're going to use today. So that'll work too. So let's go ahead and start forming our flowers. Oh, I forgot to tell you. So this is a flower making tool. The flower making tool is great, and I love it. And it came with a set with about 3 different sizes. And it's handy. But you know what else works good? I've got a couple surprises for you. A round spoon for baking. This works really good. I'll show you a trick for that. You know what else works good? Silhouette pens, because they have a nice rounded end. Most of the caps on pens have a flat end, or they have this little bump in the middle, and that doesn't work very well. But this is nice, and it's got a rounded end, and I was so excited when I found this out. This works. You heard it here. Okay, so anyway, let's move on. So what we're gonna do, and I'm gonna show you on here, so I'm gonna take my silhouette pen with the round cap, and I am going to put it in the middle, and I'm gonna kind of hold on to it at first to keep it from going around until you get it going. And what I'm doing is I'm just making this motion, you know, just in circles, okay? So I'm making the circle, and it's kind of sliding around, and that's cool. So keep going, and you're gonna see it starting to cup up, and that's what we want, all right? Okay, that's all I'm gonna do for now. I'm gonna take a bone folder, but you can use anything. You can use a piece of cardboard, you can use a butter knife, you can use whatever you want. This is a super cheap bone folder. It came with a scoring board. And I'm gonna hold on to the center here, and I'm just gonna do like as if you were wrapping a present with that curling ribbon, and we're gonna make that movement and curve those petals, okay? Now, what I'm doing in the process of doing this is some of my circle went away. That's all right. You can either go back over it. You can go back over it with this, which, by the way, you just do the same way. You can also use this and just push this down in there, because this bottom part is not going to be seen. So see how you're just kind of pushing it in here to form the outer edge there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so with this one, we're going to go ahead and curve it, or cup it, excuse me. And then we're going to take it and we're going to curve it backwards, curl it backwards so that it goes in towards itself. Okay, so now the center is closed more in the cut position. All right, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna move this off because we don't really need this quite so much. And we are going to assemble the flower. Okay, to make each flower, you're going to have the 2 large pieces that we just worked with, the 2 small pieces, and the one that was cupped, and we're going to have a set of leaves and a stamen. So we're gonna put the leaves and the stamen aside for just a second, and we're gonna work with this, all right? So first thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of glue here to the center of the large one on the end, all right? It's easier for me sometimes to go ahead and lay them out, the 4, so I know what I'm working on and don't put glue on the wrong spot. We don't want glue on the bottom of this one. This is gonna be our base. Okay, well actually it's gonna go on the leaves, so maybe eventually. All right, then we're gonna take this. You can do it 2 ways, just dip it in or put the glue there. And I'm going to stagger it so they're not stacked on top of each other, but because of the way they're curved, some of them might go on top of each other. That's cool, doesn't matter. All right, so here I'm gonna take some of this and dip it in my glue. And we're gonna put the 3rd one, and I'm gonna stagger it again. There we go. So now we have 3 layers of leaves. And for this 4th one, I'm going to dip it in the glue. And just drop it down into the center. And I'm going to use whatever I can find nearby just to hold that down in there. All right, so that's the basis of our flower. We can adjust it all later, but for now, I'm just gonna let the glue dry. Now we're gonna work on our stamen. I think I'm going to use the toothpick method today. And what I'm going to do, keep a dry toothpick. I'm gonna add some glue down the center here. I don't want a ton of it, so that's why I'm using the toothpick to kind of keep a smooth layer there. Okay, then I'm gonna put the toothpick in and I'm gonna just start rolling it, just like you would a sleeping bag. Now you want to make sure as you're rolling that you keep the bottom of the stamen equal with the bottom. You don't want it, you want to keep those level. You don't want it too far off. If it goes a little crazy, that's all right, but just try and so that we want a flat base, and it won't be flat if we get it uneven. Okay, make sure there's glue all the way out to the end, which there is, and that's not gonna show. And then I'm just gonna loosen up the toothpick and pull it out. Dip this in the glue, get a nice good amount of glue on there. And I'm gonna open this up just a little bit and stick it right down in the middle. And then I'm gonna leave it there and let it dry. And I'm gonna let it dry good. I'm gonna leave it there for about an hour or so, just so I know that that's not going anywhere, okay? So I'm gonna do that to all 3 of them. And then I'm gonna work on my leaves. The leaves do not have any score marks. Instead, we're gonna make our own little score marks. So what I'm gonna do is just use a pencil, because we are gonna cover it with paint. So see the little lines in there? If this freaks you out using the pencil, just use the end of a toothpick or something else just to make a light indent. But a pencil works good. Just kind of give some pressure and draw a line. And then draw a couple lines out. You can be as fancy or as minimalist as you want with this. Now keep in mind that the lines or the veins of the leaf are not gonna show too far in, because the petals are gonna cover this area, okay? So we're just gonna draw some on there. just like that. It's just enough to give a little bit, just a little bit of an indent. And you'll be able to see it and feel it once you get the paint on there. Then I'm gonna take the sides of the leaves and I'm gonna roll them down just a little bit, because that's kind of what leaves tend to do. They have a little curve. All right, so now we have our leaves. And I'm gonna add some glue right here. All right, then I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna set it right in there, okay? If you need to push down on the center, because you're gonna want that down in there anyway. You can see it moves around a little bit. And then we're just gonna make sure that's standing straight up again. All right, and we're gonna set that aside until they're all dry. And you can see here, I've done this one, the small one, and the other one. So I'm gonna spray paint all of these elements. Okay, I'm back. So I went ahead and allowed the glue to dry and then sprayed it with the gold leaf Krylon spray. I really like the way this one came out. It's interesting because with this one, I used a light color cardstock because I thought it would show up better on camera. And on this one, I used a really dark colored cardstock. Can you see the difference there? I mean, they're both completely covered. So that's another thing to keep in mind, you know, when choosing your materials. And this is also interesting. I really like the way this came out. I think it's regal. I'm really happy with it. On my original one, I used the hammered gold, and on this one, I used the gold leaf, and I really like it. I did notice on the original, I used the chipboard, and so you can see a little bit more of a bump, whereas this looks more embossed. As you can see the difference. I like both. So depending on what you want to do, that's what you should choose. I guess what I'm saying is no matter what you do, it's gonna look good. All right, so now that we have our 3 flowers, I'm gonna go ahead and attach the center flower to the seam. Then we'll only have 1 seam showing on the project. So I'm gonna attach the center flower because we want that to be in the middle. Okay, here's my seam. I'm gonna put that right there. As you can see, I went ahead and this still maintains, you know, you can still move this around. It did not dry hard like you would expect. I was really pleased with that. And then I'm gonna add some to the sides of that. Turn these over. I went ahead and painted the undersides with the spray paint. It just took a little bit extra, but that way when people take their crown off, it'll still look nice. And as you can tell, those pencil marks that we made for the veining and the leaf, they don't show at all once it's been painted. So you can feel comfortable doing that. Let's go ahead and stick this one. I'm gonna put it over this one a little bit. Put that one right there so that way the leaves are going out. And it's still sliding around because the glue hasn't set. So once I get this on here, I'm gonna leave it alone and let the glue do its job. Oops, got some right there, don't do that. All right, so there we go. It came out lovely. I'm really happy with it. And this one also came out lovely, and I'm really happy with it. So I do think that no matter what you choose to do, it's gonna turn out pretty good. All right, so be the woman who fixes another woman's crown without letting the world know that it was crooked. Thanks so much. Join me again, and have a crafty day.